Welcome to Bear Balanced. I'm Jeff Burkus. On the other side of the screen, Lester A. Wiltfong Jr. We are just kicking right into this show. We are not messing around. There is no pregame here. We are just going for it. Lester, how did you take this Chicago Bears loss?
That was terrible. I mean, the whole game was just like no fun, right? I mean, the bye week, right? We're all expecting, man, the Bears have won three in a row. Caleb's been on fire. This coaching staff has turned their corner. No, this is what we had feared all last offseason. It's rearing its ugly head here, and it's terrible.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, strike three. Or,
Yeah,
the old Michael Scott quote, right? It is, I'm just sensing angry vibes.
yeah,
I think this fan base is just flat out angry. They're angry at Matt Eberflus. We're going to get into that. They're angry at Shane Waldron. We're going to get into that. There's some fans that are angry at taking the wrong quarterback. We're not going to get into that because we don't agree with that.
yeah.
There are fans that are angry at Tyreek Stevenson, which we can get into
Yes.
that. Uh, but there's just a lot of anger out there, and trying to navigate through that on the website and on Twitter and on your text messages from your friends and family. It's just been rough. It's been a rough. I don't even know how long it's been. Not even 24 hours. So
No.
we're coming early because, as you on YouTube can see, the background is blank. I am in a hotel room. We're gonna do our best here and get through these categories because this was brutal. There's some good stuff to talk about, but boy, there is a lot of negative stuff to talk about here. But we always start off in the trenches, so we're going to start off there. Trench tribute for this game. Who you got?
Real quick, this is the reason why we have this bear and balance is we start with trench tribute. It's a positive category. Games like this is why we have to start with something positive. So I'm going Montez Sweat. I thought he played a nice game. He got injured late in the game. I guess it was a shin injury. And I guess that's why he wasn't on the field at the end of the game. But, he had 4 tackles, 2 tackles for loss. He had a sack. He had 3 quarterback hits. I thought when he was out there, he was active. This is probably his best game. And look, against a team that had him a year ago, it was almost a year since the trade. So it made sense that he had a little extra juice in there. And, he was active. I was really impressed with how Sweat kind of picked up his game and played.
Hey, remember, Montez Sweat is the only player in the history of the NFL to lead 2 franchises in sacks in a single
Same
season.
season, yeah.
Obviously, that's an insane stat because it doesn't happen very often where you're trading a pass rusher at the trade deadline and where he could lead both teams in sacks and going from one kind of sorry pass rush to another to be able to have that hold up, right? Like, I mean, it's just sort of one of those like quirky fun things. But yeah, I think the revenge game stuff does maybe give guys a little extra juice. That was my trench tribute as well. I think there was just too many problems with the offensive line to give it anywhere there,
Oh,
and I didn't really see anybody pop. I wanted to kind of like watch DeMarcus Walker a little bit, and then again, when you watch a guy specifically on the review, not only do the positive plays pop out, but some of the negative plays pop out. And I was like, I just don't know that I contribute him when you do have a guy that was in a revenge game situation and he performed well. And Montez Sweat's, he's clearly the number one factor on this defensive line. I mean, we all like Billings, but Sweat's the guy where all the
yeah.
attention is going to go to, particularly in pass pro. And when you are still able to produce and be able to produce against a guy as nimble and agile and fleet of foot as Jaden Daniels, and he did capitalize and get one of those sacks. I think that's really impressive, and we have to start off there.
Yeah, Sweat is a really good football player. We talk about it every week. It doesn't always pop on the stat sheets, but he's the guy that opposing offenses have to be wary of. He's the one guy in the Bears where you're like, yeah, if we don't pay attention to Sweat, he's going to get his.
We're just going to move right along into the tweet category because this is when we can start complaining. So sweet tweets. My first one or mine today is from our buddy Jack Silverstein,
Oh,
and he's of course at Reed Jack, and he's always going to pull out some fun little history nuggets and stuff. He just went back.
fun.
And,
Yeah.
yeah, fun in for this one, but
Nah, yeah, yeah.
he just went back and calculated the records of the head coaches since Lovie Smith coming out of a bye. And Coach Eberflus 1-2. Nagy was 0-4. John Fox was 0-3. Mark Trestman was 1-1, so he did get a victory. But Jack notes that the loss in the Trestman era out of the bye was a 55-14 drubbing. And in the Lovie Smith era, 6-3. So Lovie Smith knew how to use the bye week, but the rest of these coaches, uh, pretty terrible since then. And I think that, you mentioned it, the feeling coming out of the bye, you had this momentum. You hope that you go into a bye and do some self evaluation and say, hey, here's the things that we're doing really well. You get a couple extra days to game plan against the Commanders. This is a team that, has a good record, but I don't know that they. I thought the Bears match should have matched up a lot better than what they showed, right? And they were able to keep the Commanders' offense in check. They force a lot of field goals, right? But for the offense to come out and be that flat-footed for 3 quarters is really disappointing when it was revved up and humming really well going into the bye. And so this bye week woes for the Bears, it's almost a negative for this franchise since the Lovie Smith days.
That's a long time. I mean, that's a lot of head coaches ago where, coming out of a bye. I mean, that's why there's a sense of dread, right? Like most franchises, oh man, we got the bye coming up. We have a chance to refresh, get things right, get some injured guys back. And as a Bears fan, I don't feel that way because I'm expecting the worst out of a bye because that's what we've seen. And then of course, this stat from Jack kind of just shows that. Fox, it's understandable. That was a horrible team back then. Nagy, though, come on, 0-4, and then here we are, Flus 1-2, trending bad again. And like you said, so much good happened the 3 weeks prior, right? There was so much positivity there. The offense was clicking. Caleb looked good. The defense looked good. And look, the defense was okay in this game. The whole bend but don't break stuff happening, but man, penalties, false starts, pre-snap stuff, Tyreek Stevenson, just some of the mental lapses we saw in this game, some of the questionable play calls that we saw, on offense and on defense, which we'll get into on my tweet. But man, I just didn't understand some of the stuff that was happening in this game.
No, and again, you want some self-scouting coming out of the break, and you expect them to, like, hey, we've been doing this really well. We're gonna come out. We're gonna all fire on this particular concept or whatever. I didn't just see any evidence of that. It was really disappointing. And we'll just move right into your tweet of the week, though.
So mine is from Tom Fornelli at Tom Fornelli. He does some stuff for CBS. Caleb Williams played like shit for 3 quarters and then led not one but 2 game-winning touchdown drives in the 4th quarter on the road. Both were stolen from him by terrible coaching decisions. I have more faith in him through half a rookie season than I've had in 3 years of Eberflus. It all seems pretty clear what has to happen in my eyes. Look, the Bears aren't going to fire Flus here in mid-season. That's just not what they do. But I saw some pushback on this tweet when I was looking over social media. People they were saying there was only one bad decision. But look, the prevent defense at the end of the game, that was Flus's call. Going after Jaden Daniels was a decision they decided not to make. The whole giving him that extra 15 yards, that's 100% a Flus call. And I saw you tweet out about some stuff about why did he take a timeout? Take a timeout, regroup, get your defense set. You got Tyreek Stevenson running around like a jackass, yapping at the fans. He was not clearly ready to play. Someone must have noticed that either up in the booth, on the sideline. And then you saw that on the out route where they gave up the pass to McLaurin there. It looked like Flus was like, hey, come up. We have to cover the sideline here. Well, call a timeout.
Unbelievable. So I'm watching the end of the Ravens-Browns game, and there's about 20 seconds left. And Kevin Stefanski starts calling timeout. Like, he lets the Ravens break the huddle.
Yeah.
And then they come up to the line, and he takes a timeout. And it's like, okay, this is what you want to run. I'm going to take a timeout. You're going to decide if that's what you want to keep running or if you're going to switch it up. But now I know what personnel you've got. And I feel I'm just going to take some time and I'm going to get my guys lined up. I'm going to get the right personnel on the field, and then we're going to go, right? You telling me that those free 15 yards, which Eberflus has continued to double down on and say that they are not, it was a 13-yard gain. Let's just to be exact. The 13-yard out to Terry McLaurin, where he had no one on him, right? You're telling me that you couldn't have taken a timeout there and said, "Hey, we need to defend the sidelines because we tackled this guy in bounds, the game's over." And we're worried about the Hail Mary from the 35.
It would have been a 75-yard pass.
Like, well, why? Why are you worried about that? No, he's getting killed by all of these football. I mean, Pat McAfee's show with Bill Belichick on, they are killing him on this, and they should be, because both of those plays were very poorly coached. And my whole point, and I lost sleep over this. I think I tweeted that out at 1 in the morning because I woke up and I couldn't get it out of my head because I had just watched a head football coach use their time. It's 20 seconds left in the game. You don't get to take them to overtime. If you go to overtime, you don't get to take them into the next game. They don't give you extra points for having timeouts on your ledger at the end of the game. Use them. Like, you're a defensive head coach, just use them. Like, I don't understand the thought process of not using your timeouts, particularly in those two situations, to say, okay, this is what you're running. Great. Like, let me take a timeout. We're going to pause. We're going to get the right guys out there. I don't understand the I don't understand the spy. The rush 3 kills me. Rushing 3, I hate it because you're basically giving up. Rush 1. Like put a bunch of corners back there and make that happen, right? Put all of your DBs in the game and just rush 1, because, like, who cares, right? But rushing 3 against 5 offensive linemen and a really mobile quarterback, you're asking for that guy to buy all the time he needs. What's the point? And then you have a spy.
Apparently, he was spying the running back, because I saw that came out today. They didn't stream the press conference today on Twitter or on YouTube.
I think there's a reason.
Oh yeah, there's a reason. So I was able to piece together some of the stuff from the beat, and apparently TJ Edwards was on the running back. He was his responsibility. He stayed in. He was there, and kind of in case he leaked out for a late catch. But I mean, look, TJ was doing his job. That's what he was supposed to do. No, it's not on TJ. But I'm like, what are they doing? And then did you catch what Washington head coach Dan Quinn said about that out route to McLaurin?
No, I didn't.
So of course you got Flus, doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on saying that play didn't matter, right? Just dismissive of the entire play altogether. That play didn't matter. It's all about the touchdown. Dan Quinn said that was the most important play because that got him in position for the damn Hail Mary in the first place.
Right. Because if you don't have that, then you're playing the lateral play.
Yes. Oh my God. Just so much stupidity. Is it arrogance for him not calling timeouts? Is it, yes, we have it in the bag here. We have no problem here. Like why would you not, as a head coach, burn that timeout, make sure you're ready to go?
I jokingly said that he might not have known that he had any timeouts because he's so used to burning them earlier in the game that he was like, "Oh, I had timeouts left. Oh, I normally burn through those." But so someone kind of pushed back like, "Well, actually, he hadn't even been doing that lately. He's just been not using them." So, well, let's just roll into, like you mentioned, Caleb didn't play very well. Let's just roll into Caleb's corner. He was 10 for 24, brutal, absolutely brutal stat line, 131 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions. He took 2 sacks for 20 yards of loss, credited with 10 carries for only 41 yards. He was charged with a fumble lost which we have to get to at some point. But the play on the goal line, handing off to Doug Kramer. I saw Dan Orlovsky today critique Caleb. Said that the fumble was probably on him, that he didn't put it in the belly. He put it up a little high. I think we can all have a conversation about the wisdom of handing the ball off to your backup center in a have to have it situation. Yeah. Not we're up 30 and we're rubbing it in. I mean, the history of this play, everybody, it goes back to refrigerator player. No, the history is actually the Niners doing that to the Bears, and when they were running it up, and Ditka was pissed.
Yeah,
and he was so angry about that. And the next year, the Bears did that back to the Niners with the fridge. So it's kind of an FU play, and you're not in a position to do an FU play. You're in a position to let him lead block and hand the ball to Roshan, right? But anyway, we're talking about Caleb. Let me get back. Sorry, this is what happens when you have a frustrating game like this. So the stat line is pretty terrible. That's a really bad stat line. there's no interceptions here, so there is that. You only have 24 attempts because they just could not get the offense flowing. But again, at the end of the game, he's able to lead three touchdown drives. The first
Yeah.
one, Swift had a touchdown run. The second one, they got down to the 1 yard line. You're going to score that, you know, 9 times out of 10 in that situation. That's a really terrible play call. And then gets the ball back and is able to go down and score again. And some pretty impressive throws at that point. Once you had that momentum and he started to click in and go. Overall, I guess, how do you grade or judge this particular performance?
Yeah, it was a bad game. I mean, there's no if, ands, or buts about it. He had a rough game early. There were a few times where he kind of bobbled the snap. And, look, he said that the playing at home didn't affect him. He said he didn't have nerves for that. He said just another game to him. But I don't know, man. Going back home as a rookie, rookies have nerves. I mean, that's what happens. Rookies have to, they have to experience things for the first time. Once they experience it, then it's out of their system. But so this was the first time he was ever going home. A lot of drama around the game, him against Jaden Daniels. That has to be in there somewhere because Daniels is playing great. I mean, he looks really good. And Caleb, here's the talk. He's on social media. He watches these news shows and on NFL.com, I'm sure, like a lot of players do. So bobble snaps, missed throws, it seemed like they had an idea what they wanted to do against Washington, and it wasn't working. And I didn't see an adjustment. You always see a lot of stuff with young quarterbacks in a row. Hey, let's get them some quick, easy passes, right? To get them in a rhythm. I don't think that really happened much. I mean, there were a couple that were called early where it looked like he kind of bobbled it. Like they had some quick outs to Keenan. I think he just kind of sailed a couple over the top because, it wasn't there because of the timing was off because of the bobble. But, let's go back to that. Let's do some slants. I mean, how many slants do we see in this game?
It's an interesting thought, and this is maybe a conversation for another time. But like Andrew Luck, he always wanted to get popped before he could get in the flow of the game, which is a very like linebacker thing to say or a running back thing to say. There's a probably a problem with that when your quarterback says that. There's a lot of guys will say, hey, get a couple easy completions, right? So you'll see those kind of smoke routes or screens or just kind of little short routes just to get a couple going, right? Like get a couple completions, get your confidence. And Caleb seems amped up. Now he can say that he doesn't get nervous. I'm going to call BS because most of us would call nerves on what we've seen early in games. And so I wonder if as we learn more about Caleb Williams, if the answer is actually like he needs to deliver like a 15-yard dart. Like he needs to deliver like he needs to get a ball that he can just throw some RPMs behind, right? Like maybe that's it. Maybe he needs to have like a decent completion, like run a 20-yard out kind of thing, because he does seem fired up, and so maybe he needs to just feel that through like a bigger pass play, not like these short ones where he's airmailing them. Again, maybe I mean this is just me watching this early game again and being like, yeah, he just looks like he's charged up. He's throwing things over his head. Maybe he just needs to get onto that. So I think overall, when I went back and watched, my sense was he was amped up,
Yeah.
and then nothing was in rhythm, and I thought we kept saying, hey, we get into the bye week. You get a little healthier, you get all this reflection time, all of this is good. And then in the back of my mind, I was like, man, they're rolling.
Yeah.
It sure would be nice to continue playing so that you don't lose that momentum. And that's what it felt like a little bit was. They went into hibernation and they didn't wake up until the fourth quarter, late in the third or whatever. But it was bad. It was just overall bad from everybody involved in the offensive operation. And then it was like Eberflus said, "Hold my beer," and top that at the end once Caleb brought him down and got him back into it. But let's roll with the stats. I'm just going to keep piling on to Eberflus here. My stat is 3. Eberflus has 3 road wins as
Oh,
Charlie
there it
Winston's
is.
coach. He is 3-17 on the road. He has defeated teams starting Bailey Zappi, Josh Dobbs, and Sam Howell. That's the collection of quarterback names that he has defeated on the road as the head coach of the Chicago Bears.
That's Sam Howell. That was last year in Washington, wasn't it?
Yep.
A game where the Bears won 40-20 with an arguably less talented team, more talent on offense this year, coming off a bye this year. They won 40-20 last year. And then this year, the staff's outcoached by Dan Quinn, who was in his first year with the Commanders, right? This should not happen. You're in year 3 with an arguably better offense, better group of players. Year 3 of Ryan Poles bringing guys what you need, better defense, better offense. You win by 20 last year. Now, look, Jaden Daniels made a big deal in this game, obviously. You know, the quarterback play is one thing, but I don't know if you caught Taylor Dowell's game preview last week. She talked to a gentleman who covers the Commanders. They have a horrible secondary, right? The Bears should have had some mismatches here. They could not capitalize. That comes down to coaching and game planning off of a freaking bye week. It's unacceptable.
I mean, I was darn confident. You know, here's the thing. I'm glad that I'm traveling and on the road because I would have put some irresponsible bets on the Chicago Bears offense if I was in my home state and able to access my betting app. So I guess that saved me some money there because the matchup was there, and that's the
Yeah.
problem, right? I mean, I expected this Bears defense to be able to corral the Commanders offense to some extent because I believe in this Bears defense. I think they're good, but I also believed that the Commanders defense wasn't very good and that the Bears would be able to take advantage of them. Now I know they've played pretty well last week too, so maybe they're turning a corner, maybe they're starting to figure things out, but you know. Coming into this game, the numbers were still on the Bears' side to be able to take advantage of that. They don't have a lot of talent back there. You can't, I mean, you can't tell me that Roma Dunze and DJ Moore, you know, you can't unlock them. And it just doesn't make sense why we're not seeing them run a little bit more free, you know, seeing some of that ability with yards after a catch, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a tough one. What did you have for a number?
My numbers, I had 51.6%. And I also had 2.47 seconds. So I got these numbers off a tweet by at Carmi V. She is Carmen Vitale, does stuff for Fox there. According to Next Gen Stats, Caleb Williams was pressured on 51.6% of his dropbacks. And he had a 2.47 second time to pressure average, which is the highest pressure percentage and quickest time to pressure of his young career. But here's the nice thing. He was 5 for 8 for 95 yards in his final 2 drives, which we kind of talked about how he kind of turned things around, right? He kind of, you know, got things going at the end there. It wasn't enough, but, you know, that points again. The Bears had 2 weeks to prepare. They knew Quinn was going to pressure him. Dan Quinn is a good football coach. He's a good defensive football coach. You know, he has been a head coach in this league before. You know, you had to know they're going to do something different. And, you know, they attacked the Bears. They blitzed them. You know, it wasn't all blitzing all day like it was with, you know, we saw with the Texans. But they brought some pressure. You know, they ran some games up front. And look, the Bears' O-line issues with the injury hurt them. Obviously, Karen Amangati had a rough game at left tackle, filling in for Braxton Jones. You know, but look, why aren't we chipping for the rookie over there? Why aren't we doing more max protect? Why aren't we running more option routes with DeAndre Swift, who had no catches in this game? I'm not even sure he had a target. You know, like where was that? He's such a good receiver out of the backfield. Those nice quick hitters. Where were they? So terrible overall game plan.
Yeah, I did not realize that the pressure rate would have been that bad versus relative to his other games where it seemed like, especially the Texans game, where that seemed like that one was just under duress at all points. And so that's interesting to hear that it was among the worst. And again, they're missing their best defensive lineman, and they traded one of their best defensive linemen to the Bears last year. So, you know, that's not a good sign for this offensive line, who we thought was taking a step forward. And again, injuries and whatever, but still, that's brutal.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a break, but before that, real quick, Lester.
Underdog Fantasy. What is Underdog Fantasy? It is a place to play if you are a sports fan looking to win money while watching sports. Good thing you didn't do it this week because it would have been a bad one for you. But with over 5 million happy players and $2 billion won, Underdog makes it fun and easy to cash in all your favorite athlete performances. Compete against other players just by selecting higher or lower on 2 or more player stats, and you can win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn every touchdown into a win with Underdog. You think Caleb Williams will get higher than 2 passing touchdowns next week? Maybe Kyler Murray next week will get lower than 25 rushing yards. So cook up some entries for a shot to win some real cash prizes all football season long. Red Zone Rush is a game they have where you won't find anywhere else. Just pick whether or not a player will score a touchdown by swiping right for yes, left for no. It's as simple as that. Swipe left, swipe right. We can all do that. Plus, your entry will be automatically boosted, and you'll get a 51% profit boost when you play. You can win up to 1,000 times your money again by choosing higher or lower on player stats like passing yards, interceptions, touchdowns, and much more. Underdog is the best place to play champions, so sign up and deposit now using promo code CITY. That's our personal promo code. So use that, and you get $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Underdog is fun and simple, and I've been doing pretty good on Caleb Williams and DeAndre Swift higher stats. Not so good this last week on Caleb. So that's my happy place as a Bears fan. Caleb and Swift higher. Next week against the Cardinals, I think they're going to be a good bounce back for Caleb. He seemed to be like a guy that will bounce back, so I expect that to happen. So download the app today and use our code CITY to get up $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Yes, that easy. Download the app. Promo code CITY, $1,000. Every player, every touchdown. Just select higher or lower on Underdog. Now the fun part. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus Alabama, Nebraska, 19 plus Colorado for some games, 21 plus Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply, void in Colorado. Concerned when you play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP, 1-800-639-8783, or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467369. Let's go.
Nice. Well done. All right, quick break. Other side, 3 Bears. Stick with us. Okay, 3 Bears, hot bowl of porridge, cold bowl of porridge, and just right. Who did you identify for the hot bowl of porridge?
I thought the punter was pretty good, but I'm going to save him for you.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
going to go Jacob Martin, right?
Okay.
He just came back off IR. I was expecting nothing, to be honest with you. He played 15 snaps on defense. He had 2 tackles, a tackle for loss, a quarterback hit. Then he played special teams too. He had a special teams tackle. So Jacob Martin, I thought he may have been inactive. I wasn't sure how much he'd even play. They got him out there. He was productive. I saw him running around a bit, playing some defensive tackle and a stand-up role, kind of like a NASCAR package. So they're obviously comfortable using Jacob Martin in different ways. So maybe he's a guy that will help boost this pass rush here moving forward as he gets more in shape.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, again, the Bears need more pass rushers. So here's an opportunity.
Always.
They signed him as a guy that they thought would be a rotational player, and so he's back. And let's see what he can do in the next couple weeks. We're gonna need somebody to chase down Kyler Murray next week. So
Yes.
let's see what happens here. All right. So for me, I mean, you kind of tipped it, but I actually wrote down Taylor Swift, because you got Tory Taylor and you've got DeAndre Swift. Basically had the good games, right? So Swift had 18 carries for 129 yards, including a 56-yard touchdown. I think you gotta shout that out. No targets in the pass game that I saw, so that's interesting because he generally adds some juice there. But yeah, we want to talk about our guy Tory Taylor a little bit here. The kingpin. He had 7 punts, all 7 graded out above expectation. So they were good punts here. I graded it out as a 48 yards of additional field position over expectation total. It actually equals the Rams game. So Rams game, I think he had 5 punts. This time he had 7. So if you want to go like per punt, it was maybe not his best performance so far, but another like really good performance, and every punt was positive.
Yeah.
It was the random personal foul that was on there that, if you want to count that against him, which is a rough thing, but that's the coverage unit, then that kind of takes it down. But for purposes of this podcast, I wanted to just give him credit for having a good punt that forced the fair catch that had nothing to do with the personal foul that was recorded there. I think that Taylor has been overall really good. I didn't want to get out in front of myself because it's very easy to get, no one talks about punters except for us. And, I did put in the work to try to like mathematically try to show this so that we could see is he really actually doing well or not. And he had a couple rough punts in the first few, and overall he was still doing well, but he had some tough punts, and he had a couple times where, yeah, he outkicked his coverage, and there was a big return, and that is on him, right? But overall, I think he's settling in. He's starting to feel a little better. He angled that punt out, like that was a
That was
huge play. It
beautiful. Yeah.
was a huge play, and that really influenced. It kind of kept him in the game. There's a lot to talk about on how a game flows back and forth, and maybe we can hit this up in a couple minutes. But the idea of like, oh, the Bears didn't deserve to win this game, I think that's a talking point that I just cannot get behind. This was not like they turned the ball over 5 times and like no, like they turned the ball over once. They allowed 2 sacks. They got 2 sacks on the Commanders. The explosive play differential was only one until the Hail Mary. So I guess it ended up at two. Like this was actually a pretty close game. Like I think if the Bears ended up winning it, you'd look back and you'd be like, yeah, they like woke up late, and they escaped with a win. But to say they were like didn't deserve it or steal it, like I disagree. And it's plays like this that are kind of hidden players and plays like this where the punts where you're pinning them down, you're able to get the ball back with decent field position. I mean, that's how games work, right? So I think that Taylor really is a weapon for them and is doing exactly what they hoped he would.
5 punts inside the 20, and that is the most the Bears have had since Patrick O'Donnell was punting for the team back in 3 years ago. So that's good. He's proved to be a weapon that we all hoped he would be, and it's just unfortunate that every time Taylor does well, and of course the Bears lose, people want to talk about the whole comment that Caleb said, "Oh, you're not going to punt much." It is what it is. He's a good football player. He does his job to a high level, and he helped keep the Bears in that game. And I love what you tweeted out last night, saying how it's hard to win in the NFL. So if you do enough to pull out a win and you get it, even though you played like garbage for 60 minutes, if they would have pulled that game out, you're damn right they deserve that win because they stuck with it, they fought, and they came back. They won it despite all the BS going around them.
The Kansas City Chiefs, who are two-time defending Super Bowl champions and they are currently undefeated at 7-0, they have played at least 2 games that they didn't deserve to win. If that is how you view football, do you think anybody's talking about that? Do you think anybody talks about the Kansas City Chiefs like that? Like, no. Like, teams figure out ways to win, and they put them in the ledger, and they move on, right? So this whole idea, I just did not like it. I saw it everywhere.
Yeah.
I saw it absolutely everywhere. A ton of people that I like, were saying it. And I was like, this is not how I view things.
I may have written that at one point, but then I saw your tweet and I'm like, man, I never thought of it that way. I mean, if it's hard to win in the NFL, it's hard to win anything. So if you pull out the win, if you do enough to get the dub, kudos to you for fighting through. But yeah, it was that was brutal though.
Well, let's flip it around to cold bowl porridge. Kind of already talked about plenty of candidates and talked about it a lot, but who did you identify that you wanted to talk about here?
We're going to get a Tyreek Stevenson at some point, so he definitely could get this here. But I want to talk a little bit about Cole Kmet. This was National Tight Ends Day, right?
Yeah.
I saw a stat. Tight ends around the league set a record. The most tight end catches, touchdowns, whatever, yards in the history of the NFL. Like, the tight ends were on fire. Now, look, was that because it was National Tight Ends Day? Some imaginary made-up holiday they did? Maybe. I mean, it sure as helped George Kittle and these guys. They went out and they made sure they performed. Cole Kmet had one target. He caught it. It was like, but again, against a horrible Commander secondary, you only found one target for your productive tight end. Again, that's not a Cole Kmet cold bowl. That's a more cold bowl for the usage of that position because, we're a Cole Kmet friendly podcast here. I thought he should have been more involved in the game plan.
Cole Kmet made the poster. There was the poster for National Tight End Day.
Yes.
That's some very weird abbreviation, but like he was on there, right? It was a Brady Bunch thing, and so there's 8 tight ends that they featured. He's one of them. right? Yeah, he's good. People around the league are starting to see like, hey, Cole Kmet's good, and there's just nothing juiced up for him. Yeah, it was weird. It was weird. That's a good call. I mean, I didn't have Tyreek Stevenson because I figured we'd talk about it a little bit more. Maybe we can talk about that in a second. I wanted to talk coaching
Yeah.
because I just like let's talk about this all-time dumb stuff. Like, here's our space to do it. So let's start with Shane Waldron and the handoff
The
to Quimmer
handoff.
at the one. So again, we already talked about it a little bit, but this deserves a carve out here. We have talked several times about if you want to run like a cutesy play, run it with cutesy personnel. If you want to run like, hey, we're lined up, we're big, we're gonna go for it, like run that. This is an example of we're lining up big and we're running cutesy. This is not a player that has taken a lot of handoffs in his life. Like you and I have played offensive line in our lives, not as much as Doug Kramer, obviously. He's played for many years and is a successful athlete to be a professional athlete. How many times do you think he's honestly taken a handoff from a quarterback?
I mean, they talk about it, said that they practice it a lot, right? So,
Okay, a lot. How
what's a
many
lot?
total?
15, 20 times, maybe? I
Right.
mean, you only have so much time in practice, and I can't see Caleb and Doug Kramer staying after to do some handoff reps. So, I mean, he had a nice pocket. I mean, you saw him, and you know, whenever there's a bad exchange, the credit always goes to the quarterback. That's just how the NFL scores that thing. So, I don't know. I didn't see a good angle of it to kind of see. I haven't checked the all 22 yet for the front angle to see if there is one this week, but maybe it wasn't a good placement there. But regardless, you know, a more experienced ball carrier would widen those arms out and make sure he's got a big enough pocket, and then he would snatch down on that. But that ball was just like ping pong out of there. It was horrible. That was like when it happened, I didn't realize what happened because it happened so quick. The ball bounced out of there so
Yeah.
fast.
Well, and he's playing fullback,
Fullback,
so the exchange happens right
quick.
now,
Yeah,
right? So that exchange happens even faster. It's not a tailback where you're taking a couple steps and then you're visually locating, right? There's an art to that, right? There's an art to this, and there is a reason why these guys practice this many years. How many handoffs have Kari Blasingame taken in his life? How many have Roshan Johnson? I know Kari Blasingame got cut. I'm just saying he
yeah.
played that fullback role. Roshan Johnson. How many handoffs has Roshan Johnson taken in his life? DeAndre Swift taken in his life? How many do you think that is? Compare it to we practice it a lot. Doug Kramer getting the ball. Like I just don't get it, and I also don't like. I'm not. Maybe this will make some of our fans, specifically the hype man, upset about saying fullback dive. I worry about fullback dive. Fullback dive to me, the fullback should be blocking, and if you go fullback dive, you lose that blocker, right? So if there's someone in the hole, like he's now got to run that guy over. He's probably not going to try to make a miss. And so I would rather have that blocker and then give it to your running back who has an extra step to make a move if he needs to. I also would love more, let Caleb throw the ball. There was a couple
Yeah.
like quarterback runs that didn't make any sense. The play calling, I know it's easy to just question play calls when they don't work, but this one in particular is like all time dumb, stupid stuff. Like the downside of it is what happened, but the downside of it is such a huge percentage relative to what it should be at that point in the game where you really just need to like you got to make sure you score here. And so that is like all time stupid. Still was going to get bailed out. They scored a touchdown on the next drive. They took the lead. And then we have the back-to-back. Everybody's going to talk about Tyreek Stevenson. We'll get that in a second. But not using timeouts, letting them have a free 13 yards, which sets up the Hail Mary, and then only rushing three, which allows Jaden Daniels to dance around and do what he needs to, unpressured. Having the spy, which basically says we're now playing 11 on 10. And I
Mhm.
get it. He's covering the running back. I still don't get it.
Yeah.
Like either put him back or put a guy in that's going to rush. Right? Maybe Edwards doesn't even need to be on the field. Right? Maybe that's another DB or maybe that's another lineman that's going to rush. Right? What about Taylor? Why wasn't he on the field? Right? So that's another weird mistake. Again, maybe if you called timeout, you would have cleared your head. And then let's get to Tyreek Stevenson.
Did you see that video? I'm assuming you saw it was
Yeah.
floating around. One of the fans got a video of Stevenson, and he was kind of like, yip into the crowd, and then as the ball snapped, the Bears fans are in the front row pointing, "Hey, dumbass, the play is happening," and then he reacts late. So it's like, I mean, he put out that tweet apology. He didn't talk to the media yesterday. I'm not sure if he talked to the media today because, like I said, the Bears did not stream any of the press conferences. But, he apologized to his team after apologizing to the fan base last night. Coach Eberflus said that, oh man, Stevenson was the guy that was responsible to be the safety valve, the guy back on Noah Brown. It was his job because, like, when you have a Hail Mary defending it, there's always one guy, one player on the defense that's responsible for being behind everything in case of a tip. That was his job. Stevenson failed at his job at an epic level, and Flu said that there may be something happening with him, as far as a punishment goes here. I mean, at the very minimum, you got to bench this guy. I mean, you got to send a message, say, look, this is not acceptable. And look, it wasn't just the stupid play at the end, which was epic levels of stupidity. He got flagged for an unnecessary roughness call early in the game where he's sticking his finger in someone's helmet there, and then not to mention he got burned on that big play on the sideline. What's the corners get burned? It happens, right? But you got to send a message. You know what? Your play wasn't good enough. Sit down for a week.
Tyreek Stevenson is a good football player.
He is.
We want Tyreek Stevenson to be a good football player in navy and orange for a really long time. You hope that an experience like this will sort of snap something in his, synapses in his brain, and like, okay, like I've got to change my approach. Part of what makes corners is this like attitude. Yeah. This, like that's the whole Brisker thing, right? Why is this guy chirping? The Bears are losing. Like, well, that's a defensive back. That's a safety. Like that is just what it is, right? And if you win, you love them. You put them in the Hall of Fame because they talk epic levels and they back it up. It's part of what a DB is, and so it's not. You don't want to like take all of that out of him because that's part of probably where his confidence comes from. But you've got to learn how to use that, and that is just an amazing example. Taking a step back, an amazing example how one player's selfishness absolutely cost the game. Now, I'm not putting it on him, 100%. Because we just talked about all of these crazy decisions made by the coaching staff to put them in that position. But he's the one at the end that makes that last mistake. I mean, they're already playing 10 on 11. We talked about TJ Edwards as a spy, like basically taking a guy off the field. Now, you're playing kind of 10 on 9, and I have to wonder if he just would have kept taunting the Washington fans through the whole play. Now, that play was like 85 seconds long, so maybe he would have eventually just figured out that the play was going on. But what if he just kept taunting and then didn't make the play on the ball and somebody else tipped it down? Did he like would the Bears have just won that game if he just stood in the corner of the end zone? And
he was the guy that deflected it.
The ball.
Oh yeah. Because I noticed the stat line and he had a pass defense, right? And as I'm writing up the snap count stats article that I do every game a day after the game, I'm looking at it, I'm like, that pass defense, that's the one. Him running over there late, jumping up and tipping it, that's what blew the game. Yeah, I mean, if he would have stood there like a jackass and done nothing, it would have been better for the Bears. This, like you said, the whole play was bad. His part of it was terrible, but it was like the perfect storm of suck the entire play. It was like the longest touchdown completion as far as time wise go in the next gen stats era, like 12 point some odd seconds the play took. And look, I love TJ Edwards. He's a good football player, but look, if he's in there to spy the tailback, that's why he's in there. I like TJ Edwards, but he's a 4.7 40 guy, so if you are really going to have a guy on your defense where your job is, hey, spy the running back, then why is it not a nickel corner? Why don't you bring in one of your guys off the bench, a cornerback who is faster to be that spy guy? So I didn't understand a lot of the stuff happened there. It's accountability. And at the end of the day, I mean, Flu's ain't going to get held accountable. I mean, you would hope that Ryan Poles would bring him in and have a stern talking to or something, because this was just horrible. And it's like, look, it's not like it's the first time we've seen it. You see that stat where they showed, I don't get the whole ESPN winning percentage metric that they kind of show out. I don't understand it at all. All I know is that there was like a 97% chance of the Bears to win this game. And this is the fourth time in Flus's tenure where he's had a game where it's been that high of a percentage that he should have won it, that his team has not. It's maddening.
I mean, I've seen some things questioning like, why isn't Roma Dunze out there? Like he's a
Yes.
jump ball guy. Makes a lot of sense. Like that again, if the Bears haven't practiced it that way, then that's one thing. But like if that's in your package, like why aren't you thinking about it that way, right? I would much rather have no TJ Edwards on that play. I don't want to rush three ever. Like I just hate it because I just think
I hate
it's
prevent defense. I hate
right?
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I'm just out on that. But if you wanted to take TJ off, who again we really like as a football player, but maybe not on that specific play, and you put Roma Dunze in the back instead, I like that better. I don't like Russian three, but I like that better. Or take
Yeah.
TJ Edwards off and put in. I still don't understand why Taylor wasn't on the play. Gerald Taylor. He's the guy that can run really fast and make Daniel's life hell, right? So why wasn't he chasing him around? You have the bigger guys that are like setting the edge. Like I just I don't understand what the choices were here. And maybe a timeout would have helped you. Like it just so it is a lot of cold porridge that we could give
Yeah.
out here. And I just really think it starts at the top with the head coach, the offensive coordinator. Yes, players have to execute. Tyreek Stevenson deserves a lot of the flack that's coming his way. He's also a really good football player that we want to continue to develop, and hopefully he takes this the right way and improves and is able to harness that energy into the future. So, just right. I'm. I mean, that was probably the longest cold bowl segment we've ever had in the
It
history of the
was,
show.
yeah.
But let's go just right and let's clean up some stuff and get out of here.
I had DeMarcus Walker written down. I thought he,
Okay.
when I went back and watched it, like it was, like you said, a few plays, but I also had TJ Edwards because I wanted to make sure we didn't because Edwards getting a lot of flack, right, because of that last play, but that wasn't his call. TJ had 6 tackles. He had a tackle for loss. He had a nice sack where he kind of chased in there on a blitz. And like I said, that him being the running back spy wasn't his call, but there were some pretty good performances on some of those guys on defense. But I want to make sure that TJ, we didn't leave on a sour note with TJ.
Nope, I like it. I mean, again, he did his job like that. That's weird that he's getting any kind of flack because that doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense. Like that's his assignment. It's just the wrong call. Like he shouldn't be
Yeah.
in there for that. For me, it's Karan Amagaje, and I will say that like in the spirit of just right,
I
it
like
is
it. Yeah.
what you expect. And my stance on the rookie tackle is that he should not see the field in as a rookie because like something wrong has happened. People, oh, he's going to have competition. He's going to be competing Braxton. He's pushing Braxton Jones out this year. No, Braxton Jones has proven like that he's a solid football player. This is a guy that played at Yale. This is a guy that needs strength and conditioning. He needs a year of like competition to understand the speed and the moves and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, we like him. Yeah, he's got the length. Yeah, he's got the raw talent, but raw is the
Raw.
word, right? So when you go back and watch him, because oh hey, here's the new guy. Here's his first reps. I had to watch, and it's like, I mean, he's just getting beat like a drum, and then he's recovering and showing that athletic ability, and he's got some fight, and so you're seeing that raw ability. You're seeing the flashes, but I mean, the reality is he is not ready. You cannot put him out there, consistently and not expect to have issues, particularly if you put him on an island. Like you are going to have to change your protections and give him a lot of help, which you have done in the past. I mean, not Waldron because he's new, but like we have seen that in the past, right? Braxton Jones as a rookie was given a lot of help, and the ball was usually moved in the opposite direction of Braxton Jones to give him easier assignments for a big portion of the game. So if Karan Amagaji is going to play any significant snaps in the future, you as Shane Waldron have to know that you are going to have to slide protection his way. You're going to have to keep guys in a chip. You're just going to have to give him help because he is not at all ready to take a full 70 play load in the NFL.
The Bears may have to play him. I mean, they got some injuries up front. You know, Bill Murray has a pec injury. I don't think they talked about how serious it was. Tevin Jenkins left the game with a knee issue. Braxton Jones, it did come out today, he's going to miss 1 or 2 games. So
Right.
if Jones does not play at left tackle, I mean, you can't really move Pryor back out as your swing guy. Larry Borum could be back this week. I mean, he's been active from the 21-day window. He's in it right now. Um, they could get him out there. So they got a choice here. Is it going to be Borum, who has played some guard? So maybe Borum is your guy that has to step in for Tevin Jenkins now because you got so many injuries. Are they going to put Nate Davis back in the game? I mean, who knows what's happening there? So I guess it's a good thing they didn't make these trades last week and kind of pushing it up here because now you got a ton of injuries up front. You know, Ryan Bates still is not active from his 21-day window. He's still on IR with that injury. There's some problems here. And, you know, again, this points back to we like the overall depth here on the O-line. We thought they did a better job as in years past as far as bringing some guys in. There are still no studs in that group, but they have some depth pieces here. So you may see Borum out there at left tackle, but who knows? What do you think they're going to do at left tackle? You think it'll be the rookie again?
I think that I I don't know,
I
man.
hope not.
Like I'm
They got to chip and help. They got to help him if he is. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to go in with a solid plan to know that they're gonna any defensive coordinator worth their salt would try to take advantage of that matchup.
Attack him.
Yeah, and so you have to know that that's how you're anchoring against that. Basically, you have to roll out. You have to give that player a lot of easier assignments than you would in any other situation. So that's all I'll say. I have no idea. Like I'm excited about the player. Like I'm when Jacob Infante gave a scouting report, incredibly excited
Yeah.
about that player. But I I didn't want to see him this year. I didn't want to see him. I wanted to talk. I want to see next year. Like, oh wow, look at how different he looks. You know,
Yeah.
that year in the strength and conditioning. Oh look, yeah, ooh, wow, he is pushing for him. I didn't want to see it. Jones. Like, I didn't want to see it this year though. So we'll see. That'll be something really to key in on here in the next couple of days of practice, and then next week what they end up doing. We're gonna have to break out the old offensive line shifting chart again, though. We're starting to get into some dangerous territory of the number of different starting combinations, and these guys keep coming back and pushing for jobs, and yeah, it's getting up to crazy levels. I want to end with one last thing. I really like how this happened with Bill Zimmerman's tweet. He put out a poll and he said, "Who are you most blaming for this loss?" And I kind of consider it the blame pie and how you want to divvy it up. And he listed 4 names. He had Coach Eberflus, he had Coach Waldron, he had Tyreek Stevenson, and he had Caleb. Now I wrote down these numbers a while ago, but generally these polls stabilize and they don't really move. So the final numbers may be a little different than what I'm going to say, but fans on Twitter that responded to this, they said Matt Eberflus wins the poll 65%. Shane Waldron, 23% of respondents said he's most responsible. Tyreek next at 9%, and Caleb with 3%. And I just wanted to give a little clap to the Bears fans for answering this correctly, because I expected a little different, to be completely open and transparent. I expected the numbers to be closer, or even like Tyreek Stevenson to be way up. This is the right way to view it. That blame pie I actually agree with pretty well. Like that's a really good way to divvy it up. And maybe we'll come back to blame pies every once in a while.
That's a good one. I'm looking at now the updated. It's Caleb just 3%. I thought Caleb would be a little higher because it's the quarterback. A lot of fans are still triggered by the whole Caleb Justin thing. So the fact that here's our fan base that still recognized, look, Caleb was bad. I mean, he had a pretty rough game overall, and they're looking at it like, look, he still came back. He brought him back here. They had a chance to win the game. This is Flus, and but here we are again. Another year, another questions around Eberflus. The Bears are a pretty good football team on paper. This is the coach. Again, we have to hope he can do it, but it's not going to happen. I mean, I want to be proven wrong. I want him to come in and just say, look, he just gets better with age, but here we are, year 3, same bullshit as before. I just don't understand it.
he cost this team 3 games last year. With those numbers that you talked about, that very well that team should have been a 10-win team. We can say what that would differ in terms of butterfly flaps and swings and all these things that may or
Yeah.
may not change and whatever. I certainly am happy that they took Caleb Williams. I'm certainly happy they had the pick to take Roma Dunze. I don't cheer for my team, my favorite football team, to lose, and I certainly am not doing that now. There's a number of people that are wanting losses so that they can get rid of the head coach and fan how you want to fan. I'm going to
Yeah.
continue to hope that Eberflus gets better because he is the head coach now, and we were leading the charge last year to fire him. But when they brought him back, it's like, okay, I want to see this team in the playoffs. Though this team is good enough to be a playoff team, but you have to get out of your own way. The details matter. Saying that the 13-yard outplay to Terry McLaurin that got them in range to throw the Hail Mary wasn't an important play and it didn't matter is
And he keeps saying it. That's what
an
pisses me off
insane
so
thing.
much.
Just
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
that you
My
made a
bad,
mistake.
bro.
I
My
should have
bad,
called
bro.
the timeout. I should have got my guys in position. That's on me. Just own it. The,
Yeah.
the pattern that he continues to have is that he does not take ownership of the mistakes that he makes. That is very clear that he made, right? He does not take ownership of that. He puts it on the players a lot, right? Well, players need to execute better. Well, that's true, but coaches need to coach better too. And
Yeah.
that is, and at some point, he's not going to keep getting away with it. The players are going to revolt on that. And
Yeah.
so that's how coaches lose locker rooms is they don't take responsibility when they should. And you keep making the players shoulder everything, something's going to happen. I think the captains, I think Poles has built a really good locker room. I think there's a lot of really strong leaders and good players on this football team. Those captains, those players, those are the ones that are taking responsibility. And those are the guys that are going to step up. But if this coaching staff doesn't, they're going to be left behind.
Yeah, and that's when you look into talk about losing the locker room. That's how I see Flus letting it go. If something happens drastically where the players have, they're not going to revolt. Obviously, it's not going to be like that. But if there's something internal where they're like, look, they lose trust and lose faith in their leader, then Ryan Poles has to recognize that, and then a change has to make. And then, as much as I don't want to see Caleb have to start over, I think he's talented enough to deal with whatever is thrown at him.
Yeah, I think he's got the goods. So,
Yeah.
all right, that's it for us. We're gonna get out of here. Thank you for those that joined us a little early on the YouTube, and those of you that are watching it later, appreciate that as well. You can join us almost every week at 6 o'clock. We did move this one up to accommodate my schedule that I am still on the road, so I appreciate that. Lester, any last words before we hit close?
No, let's get the hell out of here.
All right, see you guys next week.